Menu. Hello friends. This video is going to be one of a series unfolding in the near future, taken from my upcoming shocking book of shapes. And I'm taking little pieces and addressing what I feel are current areas of concern. Now, Mickey here and I are very concerned about conspiracy fears, people who still fear of the conspiracies in charge. Isn't it a problem, Mickey?
Yes, because it's so unnecessary.
Yes, that's right, it's very unnecessary, Mickey, and we have to put a stop to it. Because, of course, the conspirators, the guys who used to run the world, many of them are still on the scene, but only to the extent of hanging around and getting unnecessary credit where it is no longer due. So, to give you some tools to understand how they operate and why, even though they are scary characters with telepathic spooks under their control trying to mindfuck you all the time, you really don't have to fall for it. This little vignette from my book dials us back to the year 2000, when the conspiracy were at the height of their power. And this is all they could really do when they still ruled the world. So the fact that they have nothing left but the psychic bluff should give you some pause for concern. So, around the year 2000, I had begun to uncover some of the shocking mysteries involving the May 5th, 2000 planetary alignment, the Masonic calendar of light, and other things connected to UFO phenomena, blah, blah, blah. Now, this line of thinking that I was pursuing had not been pursued before, and thus I popped up on the psychic radar of them. Ideas are monitored. That is the bottom line. Telepaths can pick up on specific thoughts just like NSA analysts use software that flags certain keywords. 55-2000 was an idea cluster at the top of their monitor list. If you put the pieces of the puzzle together in ways that threaten to realign passageways inside Chapel Perilous, you have become a great concern for them, since their power stems from policing the reality labyrinth and getting people to buy their prearranged patterns. As soon as I began thinking deeply about possible new links between Calendar of Light conspiracy theories and UFO phenomena, agents were dispatched to my area. I was at the time discussing all these plots with a friend of mine who I will call Ishmael, since he loved Moby Dick. My girlfriend at the time worked at the local radio station in our small town of Westerly, Rhode Island. About a month into my new series of serious investigations into possible conspiracy issues, a mysterious guy appeared and set up shop in the town nearby, a completely middle-of-nowhere place called Hope Valley. His name was Dennis Bossack, and he had fantastic tales to tell of the Dulce underground base that he was just dying to get out. Dennis's new store was called the UFO Lab, and to promote it, he was hanging around our radio station asking a lot of questions about our area and whether anyone may know anything about the conspiracy. Naturally, my girlfriend sent Ishmael and me his way. The UFO Lab turned out to be a storefront with books and cosmic paraphernalia in the front room, various New Age posters and Illuminati propaganda spread throughout. In the back was a weird museum with a laughable alien body and other supposedly authentic extraterrestrial artifacts, with a series of internet pages along the walls telling UFO tales. Many of these, I noted, were identical to printouts Ishmael and I had just downloaded ourselves, in such a blatant way that suspicion was inevitable. Dennis was a middle-aged Santa Claus who claimed to be a member of the Agency, the shadow government secret society working with aliens every day for over 50 years. He claimed to be the first agency member to be allowed to go public with startling information. Why he would choose to break this world-altering news in the most obscure part of the nation's smallest state was something I did not bother to ask, as I already knew the answer. When we showed only vague interest in his plot level, Dennis went so far as to insist that he was risking his life by coming forward. "He's seen too many X-Files episodes," Ishmael said to me. As we left, Dennis invited us to his big press conference, making sure to mention it to my girlfriend as well the next day, just in case we forgot. We showed up on the appointed date to find the store filled with rows of chairs. We took our seats in the back where a TV camera was being set up by the local Cox cable guy. About 30 people filtered in over the course of the next few minutes. After a half hour of waiting, Dennis decided to get things going. He was sitting on a stool in front with coffee and cigarettes on hand. He opened up with the same spiel he had given us on our first visit about the agency commissioning him to get the word out to the people about aliens. One professional-looking guy with glasses asked the question, "Is there anything in your statements which can be independently verified?" "No," was of course the answer, given curtly. Next question. "What can we do to contact aliens on our own, privately?" "You can't," Dennis said condescendingly. He quickly redirected the flow of dialogue to focus exclusively on general government conspiracies and agency intrigue. This went on for a while, as real-life stuff such as Gulf War syndrome was brought into his argument to make his own claims seem more credible in classic fact-fiction fashion. Ishmael let this go up to a point, and then he had to say something, cutting into Dennis's non-logic by pointing out that the Gulf War actually has nothing to do with the topic of UFOs. Then Dennis posed the question to all. "Has anyone here ever seen a UFO or met an alien being?" He was looking at me as he said it, but I was not about to tell tales, so I kept silent. Then a few people spoke up about weird experiences and things seen in the sky. A short blonde guy who was sitting next to me said, "Well, as a member of the Mutual UFO Network, we have regular meetings in this area all the time. We've collected quite a few reports from around here." Now several side conversations began, one between Ishmael and the MUFON guy, who said that after talking to all the big names, such as Travis Walton and the Hills, they seemed to him to believe what they claimed. "That, of course, says nothing about their objective reality," the MUFON man added. "Some people are sincerely whacked." Dennis unsuccessfully tried to regain control of the press conference. I finally got his attention with a question when the room was temporarily silent. "It seems to me," I said in my most scholarly tone, "that it is a bit presumptuous to go for so material an explanation as the one you're presenting here. For example, the identical structure between UFO events and historical occult scenarios calls for a more open mind. 500 years ago, it was stories of the devil raping people in the woods. Today, the story is about aliens giving anal probes. Perhaps only the content has changed, due to our evolving perceptions of the universe." "But the agency is in direct contact," Dennis started to retort. "However," I cut him off, "even if what you say is true, the agency players are latecomers to the game and probably irrelevant given the scale of the forces involved." This was an argument I had given Dennis at our first encounter when it was just the three of us in dialogue. He had no answer to my point then and fared no better when I whipped it out in front of everyone. Lucky for him, he was saved by some long-haired biker guy who chose that moment to voice concerns that he had been a victim of UFO abductions. Dennis was able to use this to regain control, telling the poor guy that the aliens have a plan for him which he just can't understand. Then some lady asked about UFO Egypt connections and how, as I pointed out, any contact with aliens in ancient empires makes a CIA-type plot seem a bit dwarfed by comparison. Dennis countered by saying that the agency has inherited the position of all former alien contact groups, and that he was personally in charge of covering up the shocking secrets of the Sphinx. When a woman from the other side of the room pressed him harder, bringing up Edgar Casey's predictions about the vault beneath the Sphinx, Dennis started to get a bit tripped up. He made several contradictory statements, giving different dates when asked the same question a few minutes apart. The woman corrected his counterclaims on Casey, shooting Dennis so full of holes that at one point he got so flustered that he actually said, "No matter what anyone dates has for what that chamber under the Sphinx will be open, the fact is that it won't be opened until I say so because there are armed agency guards posted at the entrance, and I gave them the order to shoot anyone, even me, who tries to get in there." His face was quite red by now. His last sentence, a shout. At this point, Ishmael came at him hard once again, zeroing in on many specific details that didn't exist, exposing the lies, pushing our host to the point where paranoid fantasies started to bleed through. "You ask me these questions like you already know the answers," Dennis said coldly. "Are you an agent planted to test me, to see how much I might reveal? If I answer your questions and give away too much, are you going to shoot me? Do you have a gun on you right now? Are you going to go postal and kill us all?" Ishmael was shocked by the accusations. All he could do was laugh. Grunts and sighs from the others indicated that the outburst had not gone over well. Most of the people got up and left, while a couple of side conversations resumed. I turned to the MUFON man and asked what he thought of my words. "You express ideas way over the heads of these people," he said with a tone of compassionate understanding. "You're too multidimensional for them. They want to hear a traditional nuts and bolts view of things. It's that way with most people you meet in this subculture." "But," I said, "not everyone can be lying, yet simultaneously no one is in agreement across the board. Conspiracy theories contain many versions of the same plots, but some draw diametrically opposite conclusions. What are we to think?" "I know what you're saying," he said. "Frankly, after years of research, I think your way of looking at this is the correct one, but it's not a popular explanation." We then went on to agree that we saw little value and much danger contemplating these mysteries too seriously. At this point, we were interrupted by some angry shouting between Ishmael and Dennis, who was by now jumping up and down, red-faced, waving his arms, blurting out, "You are questioning my credibility!" Ishmael shook his head and turned away, disgusted. We left. Upon reflection, he felt bad about how aggressively he had cut into Dennis, so he sent the UFO Lab an email later that night apologizing for upsetting the guy. Dennis responded by informing Ishmael that we should not return to the UFO Lab, as we apparently were only there to cause trouble. He finished the email by telling Ishmael that I was obviously some evil genius who was pushing my friend's buttons, trying to make the conversation turn violent. Dennis advised Ishmael to get away from my cult-like control. We were both speechless with disbelief. The UFO Lab closed a month later and Dennis disappeared, presumably returning to the underground base. Now, of course, there is nothing to prove that this sad theater was the result of my being targeted by the conspiracy. It just looks that way. All that really matters is that I passed the test of their last temptation. And that's the point, friends. You also must pass the test. Give the conspirators no credit because they no longer deserve it. The machine they built has robbed them of all authority, and all they have are the type of psychic games which my tale just illustrated to you. So think twice and assume the best, because that's the way it really is. Goodbye and happy day!